Hello, everyone, in both the physical world and in the virtual world. I'm Jeremy Geffen. I'm the Executive and Artistic Director for Cal Performances, and I'm so happy to have you all here in whichever format makes sense for you. This discussion of music, the diaspora, and the world, a conversation with Angélique Kidjo, who is Cal Performances and UC Berkeley's first ever season-long artist in residence. As will become abundantly clear shortly, she is a font of information and energy and just a general light in the world. So it's a great pleasure to work with her. I want to thank the co-sponsors of this event, the Townsend Center for the Humanities, Cal Performances, Black Studies Collaboratory, and the Social Sciences Matrix, Social Science Matrix. And we are actually in the Social Science Matrix right now as we speak. And now I'd like to introduce you to the moderator of this panel, a very distinguished professor named Tianna Paschel. I'm going to read her bio for you all. Tianna is Associate Professor of Sociology and African American Studies at the University of California, Berkeley. Her work explores Afro-diasporic politics, social movements, and transnationalism in the Americas. She is the author of the award-winning book, Becoming Black Political Subjects, Movements and Ethno-Racial Rights in Colombia and Brazil, and co-editor of Afro-Latinas in Movement. Lesser known is Tianna Paschel's decades of studying, teaching, and performing Afro-Cuban and Afro-Brazilian dance with the Los Angeles-based Omo Ashe and with Teresita Dome Perez, former dancer of the Afro-Cuba de Matanzas. She also danced with the Afro-Colombian dance company Tambores del Elegua in Bogota, Colombia. And I've just been put through some paces trying to pronounce some Spanish that okay, I got the thumbs up. I'm going to turn it over to Tianna, and I look forward to this wonderful discussion.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. And thank you to all the organizers and co-sponsors for this event. I never imagined that I would be sitting here with you all in front of Angélique Kidjo. I'm going to first introduce Kidjo's interlocutors, and then I will introduce the great Angélique Kidjo. Ivy Mills is with us. Ivy Mills teaches courses on African art, arts and visual cultures, and the history of the art department here at UC Berkeley. I'm proud to say that she is an alum of our doctoral program in African Diaspora Studies, and she has lived in Paris and in Dakar, where she conducted Fulbright-funded research on Senegalese cultural production and taught university courses. She has ongoing projects in Senegal and in Nigeria on contemporary works that engage with questions of social inclusion, exclusion, and gender asymmetries in religious practice and representation. Ivy is also a curator. She co-curated the Bernice L. Brown Gallery exhibition, Love Across the Global South, Popular Cinema Cultures of India and Senegal, and has moderated conversations with artists and curators for the Museum of the African Diaspora in San Francisco and the Berkeley Art Museum. She's also contributed to the exhibition Mothership, Voyage into Afrofuturism, which I feel like is still currently being shown at the Oakland Museum of California, and which is fantastic. The daughter of a visual artist and a jazz musician, she approaches African cultural production as multisensorial experience where various combinations of music, dance, performance, visual forms, text, and intangible spiritual energies co-constitute the event. We are also really honored to have with us Victoria Netanis Grubbs. Victoria is a Black feminist sound theorist and abolitionist educator with a commitment to developing and supporting radical Black futures unforeseen. I am proud to say that she recently joined us here at UC Berkeley as a postdoctoral fellow with the Black Studies Collaboratory in the Department of African American Studies. Her dissertation titled Kumba Meze Neza Sounding Blackness in Rwanda, draws on 4 years of participant observation amongst Rwandan music industry professionals and their audiences to demonstrate how contemporary Rwandan music works and feels in the aftermath of genocide. She argues, among other brilliant insights, that music helps to produce a collective social body in Rwanda. More broadly, her research interests include the political economy of cultural production, transnational diasporic cultural networks, the semiotics of sound, and the aesthetics of Blackness. So we are so happy to have you here as interlocutors with Angélique Kidjo. So it is my honor to introduce our guest of honor. In many ways, you do not need an introduction. But I'm gonna do it anyway, because that's what I'm tasked to do. You are one of the greatest artists in international music today. Your voice is powerful and striking, and your fluency in many cultures and languages has won so much respect among your peers and resonated with people around the globe. So Angélique Kidjo's music cross-pollinates the West African traditions of her childhood in Benin with elements of American R&B, funk, and jazz, as well as influences from Europe and Latin America. Kidjo is a creative force who has offered the world 13 phenomenal albums. Her music is wide-ranging, it is layered, it is heart-forward, soulful music that makes you feel. Time magazine has called Kidjo Africa's premier diva. And now that I meet you in person, I know why, and I love it. I'm here for that. The BBC has included her in its list of the continent's 50 most iconic figures. And in 2011, The Guardian listed her as one of their top 100 most inspiring women in the world. And the list goes on and on. But I will say that Kidjo also changes the world in other ways beyond her music. She travels the world advocating on behalf of children in her capacity as a UNICEF and Oxfam Goodwill Ambassador. And at the G7 summit in 2019, President Macron of France named Kidjo as a spokesperson for the Affirmative Finance Action for Women in Africa to help close the financing gap for women entrepreneurs in Africa. She has also created her own charitable foundation, Batonga, dedicated to support the education of young girls on the African continent. Ms. Kidjo, I was first introduced to your soul-feeding, world-making music by a dear friend of mine who was born in Belize and raised in Los Angeles, and with whom I've danced everything from Cuban salsa to samba to R&B on dance floors from San Francisco to Salvador da Bahia. I was 23 years old and had just gotten back from studying abroad in Brazil. And at that time in my life, I was contemplating who I was and where I belonged. And your album, Black Ivory Soul, became my soundtrack. It articulated a kind of African diasporic belonging, a diasporic longing that I felt so deeply, but could not put into words. So I thank you for that. I thank you for your music. It is my honor to welcome you today.
Thank you so much.
So we're gonna start out with a question from Victoria.
Checking, okay. Hi, Ms. Kidjo. Yes, just echoing again, what an exciting opportunity and privilege it is to speak with you. And I wanted to get us started by hearing you talk to us a little bit about the process of Africanizing music. I've listened to your Celia Cruz album, which is easily one of my favorites. It's so amazing. And you're here to share the Remain in Light project with us. And you're known for doing a lot of covers and talking a lot about African influences that you hear sonically that maybe other people don't recognize. So I would love to hear you talk about what it means to Africanize something sonically, and also how you hear that as different from or similar to a sort of global Black diasporic sound.
Well, I don't know what it means, Africanize. Everybody's African for me, as far as I'm concerned. Because if you call ourselves Homo sapiens, where they come from, Africa. And our history has been one of the most painful one, all of us. I mean, Black, white, yellow, red, and whatever it is, we call ourselves. For me, I grew up in a country and in a household where my mom and dad has made me understand that being a person is beyond your skin color, is beyond anything. It's just a God's gift to be born somewhere. And no child is choose where to be born. So for me, the music that I listened to growing up listening to, I found that music in every music that come home. Because my dad always say, only one paycheck, right? So I can't send you on vacation in America, Europe, wherever. The only thing I can do is to bring the culture to you, for you to understand that behind this door, the world is multiple and at the same time very small. That we have to find in ourselves what link us to other beyond history, but just being a human being. So that's how I write my music. That's how I do my music. When I'm inspired to do a song, I'm not thinking about a specific public. I'm thinking at all of us as one.
So there's been, I think, a lot of conversation around the way that you approach music that places it geographically in Africa, right? And something that you've been really, I think, vocal and proud about, right? Where you come from, knowing your history, knowing your roots, and it being audible, something that people can listen to. Is that a citational practice of, is it a politics? Is it an intervention to sound African?
I am African. I was born in Africa. I didn't choose to. I didn't choose to be born in Africa. I mean, nobody. I mean, who was? We don't choose where we are born. But one thing that I was really interested in as a child, because I've always been a very curious child. My nickname is when, where, how, why. I mean, I never get enough answer. I was the headache of all the elderly people around me. They're like, shut up, don't ask more questions. I say, I'm sitting here, you're gonna have to answer, otherwise I ain't going nowhere. And my dad said, just answer, please. Then she can go do something else. And you answer and I ask again. And that's how you know who you are. Because our traditions is oral. I mean, it's not written. So if you don't ask, I have a special love for elderly people. Because they don't have anything to prove anymore. They live through some minutes saying things that you are about to see. So you learn from them, and when the thing occur, you go, oh, I've known this. Somebody have told me about it. So you know how to maneuver in it. And the music where I grew up is always through the lens of the traditional musician in my country. Because there's so many music that comes from all over the place, and you're a little girl, and this comes in and you go, how do you listen to this? How do you make sense of this? And when I'm overwhelmed, I'll go to the village. I say, okay, guys, I have a music. Can you play it? And they all look at me, okay, let's just get the drum. They got the drum, and then the people that play the cowbell or play the bottle or play the body, whatever they want to do. I say, now play. And they will jam. And everything in that album, it doesn't matter which language is sung, doesn't matter where it comes from, makes sense to me. So that's where I said we are all African, because it's in our DNA. I don't care anyone that said to me, I don't know how to dance. As my mom said, you don't know how to dance, it means your heart ain't beating. If your heart beats, you have a rhythm. So the clave in all music that we have here around the world, that we cut and paste in 2/2, 4/4, whatever rhythm we call it, travel with the slaves, and is the bedrock of all music. Even if in the classical music is not that pronounced, there is a rhythm in it. If there's no rhythm, there's no music, right? So it has been my compass. That clave, everywhere I go, I hear it. And I can take it from wherever it is to put it somewhere else. I can do 6/8, 12/8, whatever it is. I just go for it because it's in my blood. And it's in all of us blood, because we can do 4/4. Rock and roll is, you know what I mean? So it comes from there. So Africanizing means accepting all of us, our Africanity. That's what I offer through my music, for us to feel that if we come from this music to the other, there's no shame if you don't understand it. There's nothing that can be out of place. It is normal.
Thank you for that.
Well, just a quick follow-up. It does seem like there have been times when it's really politically important to acknowledge the, the African origins of particular songs. So when you talk about, for example, you dancing to the Talking Heads album, back in the 1980s in Paris, and, you're saying this is African, right? And they actually acknowledged the influence of Fela and other African and African diasporic music traditions on that album. And other people said, no, this isn't African music, this is rock and roll. So it seems to me that there are times when you have insisted on recognizing the African origins of particular songs.
I have to say that when I arrived in France in 1983, I was shocked by the ignorance of the people. And I'm like, you're living in the 20th century and you still asking me, how do I go by to do my grocery shopping? Or do I go grocery shopping on the back of an elephant? I say, yes. And I have a monkey carrying my grocery. I mean, where you come from? I mean, it's 1983. What's wrong with you? What make you so stupid? I mean, and those questions, when you first arrive somewhere and the idea you have of the place, because when I was in school, we were taught that France is the country of freedom, equality, human rights. And here you are having fellow students that have no idea about where you come from. They go, Benin, or is it? So you have to take a map to show them where it is. I'm like, I know where your country is on the map more. I mean, it's just, I know it better than you. And then the next step, then when you corner them for that, their ignorance, they tell you, well, can you speak a French? We understand. We don't need encyclopedia to understand what you're saying. I say, sorry, it's your language. You can't speak it. Sorry for you. So I become a teacher somehow to make people understand. You cannot say to yourself, I'm a student in music school and be so ignorant about the huge part that Africa has played and continue playing in the music that you're listening to. You think that you invented rock and roll? Think again. So for me, it's not even insisting, it's educating people, for people to understand. Because if you're ignorant culturally, you can justify your racism. Because it gives you a sense of being more than somebody, because you view the culture of the other person as primitive. I'm like, well, if I'm primitive, you are too. Because we all come from the same roots. So my music has been, for me, an engine of education, of bringing people to realize that there's no comfort to take in disowning somebody or dehumanizing somebody. Because if you're able to do that, it means you have no humanity. If you see that you're pure human being and you just see somebody that you just discard, what does it say from you? What life do you have? Who are you? So my music is there. It's like I'm offering something for you to listen to without prejudice, without cliches. Just listen. You like it or not, it's okay. But don't judge something you don't know. That's it.
So with your permission, I'm going to share a little anecdote and some images to preface my question.
Go ahead.
If you could pause the video, please. I'm going to start with the slides.
Oh my God. That's why I don't like computer. I don't know how it functions. And I want to know.
So as you heard, I teach courses on African arts and visual cultures. I teach both historical and contemporary arts. And I started taking my students to look at the collection of African art at the Hearst Museum of Anthropology, which is a museum based here on campus. They have an amazing collection of cultural objects from all over the world. their Yoruba collection in particular is really astonishing. There are almost 1,500 objects. And so I put together a list of objects that we would look at as a class. We then went to the annex, which is this huge storage facility where they keep all of the objects in these, they keep them stored away in drawers, and they slumber there for years and years and years. There are many objects that are rarely taken out and viewed. So the objects are there in their drawers slumbering. So I had chosen a selection of objects. The folks who work at the facility brought them out. We came into this facility. So this is a photo of some really striking Dogon sculptures here in the foreground. Also arranged around the table are many Yoruba, primarily ritual objects. And so we were walking around and looking at these objects, and there was sort of like some kind of energy in the air, right? All of us were feeling slightly strange, right? We were feeling like we are sort of in the presence of all of these really astonishing objects that had a kind of spiritual charge. And as we were walking around the table, we then stopped at this object. This is an Arugba Shango. It's an object that's used in Shango ritual devotion. Shango is the Yoruba god of thunder and lightning. And this two-dimensional image does not do this object justice at all. This is really, when you encounter it, it is incredibly powerful. So we were looking at this object, and all of a sudden, the power went out in the whole facility. Total darkness. And the woman who was facilitating was very unnerved. She said, well, this never happens. And so we were all sort of, what's going on? And then eventually the generator lights came back up. But it really it felt important, right? It felt like we had an encounter of some kind. And as we were sort of processing this experience afterwards, I was thinking about how Shango has become the Orisha associated with electricity, right? With electric power. This is an iconic statue by Ben Anwanwu, which is in Lagos in front of the power company building. And as my students and I were sort of processing what had happened, what came to my mind in a loop over and over and over again was your song, Shango, which for me kind of communicated, right? That Shango power, which to us kind of felt like, was manifesting in that moment. And so I shared the song with my students and so forth. And so this is, a preface to my question. We've talked about albums that were all really important to us. Your album FIFA, very, really important for me, soundtrack at a particular moment in my life when I was living in Paris. And FIFA also strikes me as a very profoundly devotional album. And some of your music one might classify it as devotional music. And so my question is, do you feel like your music is devotional? Do you feel like some of it is devotional, some of it isn't? Do you feel like there's any tension between sacred music and secular music? I'm thinking about the controversy surrounding Youssou N'Dour's album Egypt when it came out. Youssou N'Dour is a musician from Senegal, world famous, known for his Mbalak music, which is very secular. Then he did a very spiritual album. And there are a lot of folks in Senegal and elsewhere who are upset that he was kind of mixing the sacred and the secular. So my question for you is what is your relationship to sacred music and to devotional music in particular?
There's no music without both of those, because one of the things that really strike me is a response of Philip Glass to a journalist that was asking us, what does it mean, inspiration? And Philip Glass said, it's from the domain of the unknown. We don't know why we write this song or we don't write that song. It's something that we don't have power over. If we have power over, we won't have any arts left, because everything that we can understand, we just kill it. So, I mean, that's what it is. That's what makes arts so particularly profound and powerful, and you have to not use it for hate. For me, music is all about what I have to say and what comes to me. And in that, I don't have to choose the language that song particularly going to be in, because I've been asked the question, why this language versus that one? I say, I wish I know. Because if I have the answer, I won't be writing a song anymore. And the album FIFA was for me a moment where, after all those years in exile, running away from the communist dictatorship, that I could come back to my hometown without being afraid of being put in jail. Mm-hmm. And that I wanted to reconnect with the power of the drums, because that's what allowed me during my exile to stay alive. The memory of the drum, of the rhythm, of the songs. And for that, I wanted to travel from the south all the way to the north. That's why you have on the album FIFA more than 100 people's name, because every single person that played an instrument on that album, I wanted them to be represented, because they bring something to it. It's not just me going there and say, give me this. I know we all come together and do this. And I think that album triggered a lot of attention, because I remember having an interview with the late Billboard editor-in-chief, Timothy White. And it's one of those profound interviews that you ever have with somebody. He studied the album to the point where I was even surprised at the question he was asking me, because it resonated in him many different rhythms that he couldn't. And Timothy White is from Vermont. I have finished that interview with him. I'm like, my head was burning out of answering questions, but I was feeling at the same time relief, because the cliche about African music and about our culture, about our belief, it has to be negative for people that embark in the business of slavery to find a way out of this crime they were committing. So there's not one human being that can be without spirituality. It's impossible. You're not complete. And spirituality means what? It means, how do you view yourself in this cosmos? What are your values? How do you see your soul as you evolve, growing old, your experience of life? And how do you give out of yourself the light in you to share with others? For me, that's what spirituality lives. The gods and goddesses, whatever it is, any God that we call, can only exist if we understand that we ourselves, we are part of God. So for me, my music, that's where it comes from. I don't believe in violence. I don't believe in hate, because I was not taught that. And I don't understand people that hang on to hate or violence. It's just a waste of time. So sometimes my music have that effect on people, that they hang on to it to get to the next step. I didn't do it in purpose, because I never, ever try to turn and twist my inspiration to fit into any agenda. I don't have any agenda. It's how it comes out, and that's what it's gonna be. It's above me, and it's stronger than me. And I just go, well, I have this voice. I didn't ask for it. The song comes. That's what's gonna be. I'm gonna sing it.
And I do see you like making a gesture like this, like you birthed the music. Yeah.
You just have to come out. I mean, it's like when you are about to deliver a baby, you're not the one that decide when the contraction is stopping or not. You don't have any power over that. Your child is empowered. That one thing. I want to get the hell out of here.
you have spoken at points about wanting to rehabilitate Vodun and other African religions sort of in the eyes of the world. So it did seem like the FIFA album, perhaps, and other albums around that time were sort of interested in kind of presenting African religions to the world and elevating them.
Well, I don't see it like that, because that religion I grew up in the country where that religion exists. What you call voodoo is the Orisha. It's the same thing. I mean, all the way to Cuba, to Brazil. Is our way that our ancestor could deal with the elements. Thunder when it comes in, the power of water, the power of fire. I mean, they gotta make sense of it. That's where the Orisha comes from. And if you see how it is syncretized in Cuba with the Christian saints, is because they have something in similarity with those gods. With the Greek gods, we don't talk about them. Zeus, hey, what does he do? I mean, when we talk about Greek gods, it's absolutely normal. It's absolutely perfect. But it's not talk about the African god. It has to be evil. And I'm like, why? A negative story about our gods is to deny us any spirituality. Therefore, it reinforces the narrative that we are not human beings, therefore we can be slaves. So that's what I'm trying to say with my music. I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody that doesn't understand that religion. I don't care about that. I know who I am. I know where I come from. And music has allowed me to offer a platform and to build bridges between culture. And I will continue doing that till my last breath. Because as long as we gonna be sitting and thinking that some are superior, some are inferior. So I'm like, this is just a waste of our time. Why don't we just put that aside and work together for a betterment of our humanity? That's what I'm about. All my music is about that. How I make people understand that I'm not different. When I'm thirsty, I drink water like you do. When I'm tired, I go to bed and I sleep too. And in that, there's no skin color.
Thank you, Ivy, for your question. It made me think of something I'd heard you say in an interview, Ms. Kidjo, about overcoming your stage fright. It's a story that you've told a couple of times, citing the words of your father about being spiritually naked. Your mother. Okay, sorry, the words of your mother, being spiritually naked. And it stuck with me. You had said that you overcame your fear of performance by being humble and serving the spirit of the music. So if we're thinking about the spirit of the music, also in the context of, you know, fleeing a communist dictatorship because you didn't want to make propaganda, not wanting to make music in service of some state or political party, but still very much seeing yourself in service, like of something. So I would just love to hear you share with us a little bit, like what that spirit's character is, or feels like, or sounds like to you.
Well, I think that as I will quote the elderly people in my village, because I've been asking questions so much. One of the questions that I asked was, what is a song? And why sometimes the lyrics are so gruesome and yet we dance in it. I'm telling you, and they're looking at me like, when are you gonna stop asking questions? I'm like, well, you don't answer me, I ain't going nowhere. So I have an uncle. My uncle is no longer here, and his name is Kusanubu, which means the one that the death don't want, because all the children of his mother died and he was the only one that survived. And he has this particular talent to explain things that no one can explain. I don't know why, but he's no longer here. So I lost a great deal out of it. And he said to me, we don't think of song as Trinity. We pray, we sing in the name of God, and the same songs have those three things. It's made of three things: melody, words, and rhythm. That when you are writing the song, those three things are present from the moment you start singing the song, without you even realizing that the rhythm is already there, the melody is already there, and what you want to say is already there. Is when you hone on those three things and you write a song and you want to reflect back on it, you cannot remember what comes first. I say, that's so true, because I write the song and I'm like, how did the song get here? I don't know anymore. It's just, it's out there. I can't explain. And then I said, okay, now the second one, why we dance on gruesome lyrics? And he said to me, there is one thing that is common to all human beings. One thing that cripples our ability to move forward is guilt. That you're an artist, you're singing, the public don't come for you to lecture them into guilt. Tell them what is going on and let everyone make their own decision if where they're gonna move from here on. And I'm like, really? How so? And he told me, think about it. And I think about it, and it's right. What my mom was saying, when you get there, you have to be naked spiritually. She also explained that you have to have a tremendous ego to go on stage. And that ego is at the service of the song, not you looking at yourself like you're superior to anyone or inferior. That ego will allow you to be there, not shaking from head to toe and mumbling and get out of there in shame. But being humble comes with you accepting your vulnerability and open your spirituality to other people. Because everybody that is in the public have spirituality. They believe in something. What it is, you don't know. So the only way you can be able to touch people that doesn't speak the language you speak, even if they speak your language, you have to have the courage of living in that vulnerability completely. That's what she meant by being naked spiritually. And one of the things that we haven't been able to do, that we run away from since we've been on this earth, is love. Because love demands vulnerability. It can hurt sometimes. Hate, you don't think twice before you kill somebody or you hate somebody. When you love yourself and love another person, you care for the person in everything you do. Every decision you make, you do it carefully not to hurt the person in front of you. But when you embrace hate, what do you care? That's it. For me, that's where it is, being naked spiritually. And it hits me. We were on tour in America. I said this, I always tell this story because it stays with me, the moment of reckoning of that. Because when my mom said, I'm like, okay, what does it mean? How do I understand this? We were on tour and we did a show. Our last show was in Salt Lake City. And we were in tour bus, and the next show that followed was going to be in Boston. So we carved in 2 days to travel, to come back. You proposed and God decided. And the tour bus break down. So we are looking at the time. How many times are you going to sleep on that bus? I get sick and tired of laying my back down. And the anxiety of not being able to arrive on time was something that was put all of us on the edge. We had 2 drivers. So at one point, when we fixed the mechanical problem, the driver said, please don't stress me, I have to drive. I can feel you all nervous. I can guarantee you that I will do everything in my capacity to bring you. You're gonna do this show, but please go to your bed and don't be hovering over my head. We say, all right. We all go to our bunk and lay down like, oh. But on the other hand, we understand that he wanted that space. And we arrived 4 hours before the show in Somerville Theater. They were talking to the tour manager on the phone, and then she's like, we're gonna be there every step of the way. When we arrive, we have to run for sound check. I say, I ain't doing no sound check. We on tour, you already know what I need. I'm going to take me a shower and meditate and cool down. This stress, I can't go on stage with it. So I went, took my shower, came back. But when you're tired, your brain, your body, everything, every inch of your body is just like, get me to bed now. And you have to fight against it. Who is the battle that is not easy to win? So here I am on the wing, dark light, and I'm meditating and just stretching as I do. And suddenly, I hear that voice of my mom saying, before you get on stage, you gotta be ready to be naked spiritually. And I turn around and I go, well, I just have to go there. I fall down or I stay up. I have no choice. It was the tour of the album, Black African Soul. And I walk on that stage with the musician, they were telling me in the dressing room, Angélique, we are so tired. I said, I want you to do me a favor. Don't talk about tiredness in here. Let's go out there and play. Let's do our best because we're just human beings. We can fail. So let's go for it. And I walk on that stage, I grab my microphone. That was the end of tiredness. Boom! But after when I get to my bed, I was just like, that's what it does.
So I wanted to go back to Paris in the 80s. Unfortunately, well, no, that was the 90s. That was the 90s. 90s, not the 80s. But you've already described the ignorance and the racism that you encountered. And also, you've described in your autobiography how incredibly hard it was to live there the first several years that you were there, and how you were struggling, and then you were studying jazz. But so Paris was difficult at the beginning, and in many ways such an inhospitable place for Africans of all kinds, right? Musicians and also folks who are consigned to sweeping the streets and working in the factories and so forth. But it ends up becoming the place where world music, what you do refer to as world music, really starts to develop. And it also becomes the place where your own career
They used
really
to call it
takes
Sono
off.
Mondial.
Sono Mondial, right.
I prefer Sono Mondial.
Okay. Well, I was wondering if you could talk to us about that moment where you have all of these amazing artists who are based in Paris or connected to Paris somehow. I'm thinking of Salif Keita. I'm thinking also of Loko Akanza, who I loved in the mid-90s. And all of these other artists, it seemed to me like, Paris offered was a site of synergy, and it was both maybe constraining and enabling.
Well, that's exactly what it is. And music bring you to journeys that are really challenging for your humanity, your intelligence, and how you live in life. That is a very good school, actually. Music is a very possessive mistress. It's just like crazy. You just cannot walk away from it. And it's also strengthened you, actually. It strengthened you in the point where you're fighting without knowing you're fighting. You just work for it because the passion of music make you bold, fearless. And me as an African woman in the middle of the 80s and 90s, I was not quiet, and I was not taking nobody's crap, period. And I hated the term world music from the get-go, because you understand, I understood that it was a kind of a box, like little coffin that they prepare for African artists. We put in there when we want you to come out, we open the coffin, you come out, and we don't want you put it back in there. And I'm like, I don't want this. The struggle for the cover of my album, Logozo, the style is just coming with stuff and say, your breasts have to be naked. I'm like, did your mom walk around with her breast out there? And then she goes, but that's South African. Oh, you can't wear the boo-boo. I'm like, which boo-boo you talking about? I'm a modern African young woman, and I'm gonna show you that. So I put that zip up, put it on. I'm like, that's it. I'm doing it otherwise. So Paris was a place where there were endless possibilities in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. But the window just started closing because every talent that was coming out of Africa, when they opened their mouth, start singing, you go, come again. These people can't sing you today. They're like, oh, we gotta protect our own music. So then the radio, they start putting what they call quota on the radio. And the radio were forced to play like 80% of music sung in French and the rest for the rest of the world. So we Africans have to compete against the American music, the British music. So suddenly that whole hope that started, fear, stopped it. But we continue doing what we love to do the most, singing. And it was not about the fact that we sing in our native language. It was just because we love music and we want to do it at any cost.
Did the sort of that synergy also, was it a result of neighborhoods? You talk about Chateau Rouge, you talk about Chateau d'Eau, you know, there are these in Barbès, there are these neighborhoods in Paris where there very large were large concentrations of their African communities and also Caribbean communities as well. And there was sort of like there was just a lot of interaction, a lot of mixing.
A lot of mixing,
and,
melting pot. And music is that. I love that. I love the fact that there are no boundaries. And the thing is, music makes you free, gives you wings, and also give you purpose, responsibility. And I never take my music or my talent lightly. And from that point on, that moment on, I realized that when you're an African artist, you have to perform 3 times, 4 times better than anybody else. That when you're walking on the stage, you're not walking alone. You're carrying the whole community of Black people on your shoulder. You're not representing yourself. You're representing a melting pot of culture of Black people. Because that's what is expected for you. I'm like, you want me to wear that vest? Gladly. I'll do it. And I'll do the best I can every time, everywhere. Not only that I will represent Black people at large, but I will represent every human being at large. Because singing is something that is a gift of God. I mean, you play an instrument is different. When you're not feeling good, when you're singing, you can hear it. That's why I said the voice is the mirror of the soul. So I didn't ask for this voice. God gave it to me. I'm doing my best with it.
I've heard you refer to yourself as the voice of the voiceless in other interviews. And I think that's something that was even taken up in the more social work you're doing with the educating women and being a goodwill ambassador with the UN. So it makes me think about how you see the role of the artist in society. It's particularly interesting to me coming from Brooklyn. I think you live in Brooklyn.
I live in Brooklyn.
Yeah, you live in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn is in the house.
Yeah. So coming from Brooklyn, right, and living through this last summer, seeing amongst my peers and my colleagues a real sort of like dedication and resurgence of socialism and socialist values, and people talking about investing in anti-capitalist lifestyles. And I would just love to kind of hear your thoughts on what the role of the artist is in relation to capital and how you've navigated that.
That's interesting. Geez. Artist and capitalism, that's a different one. Well, I think that when you are an artist, you just don't do music because you're making money. If your own purpose is to make money, you're in the wrong business, because what you have to give. It has always been the balance of both. When you work, every person that produces something have to be paid, and paid properly. And from the moment we use the salary as segregation tool, discrimination tool, we've devaluated the value of work also. So us artists, with all this technology going on, some of us are not making much money if you don't play on stage. It was not like that before. For me, socialism, capitalism, all those things are words. What we decide to do with one another, how do we move forward in creating a more equal, a more just world, is what we have to question, not the socialism nor the capitalism. How did we share the wealth of this world? How should we let a minority of people hijack the resources of a majority? And we create disenfranchised population, not only here, but everywhere. For me, my work is always to find a way to tell the story of all, to give us a picture of the world as true as it can be for the subject that I sing about. Because I'm a storyteller. If you're a singer, you're a storyteller. And you live in a world that affects you and affects your creativity. You can try to run away from it, it's not gonna go away, because the things that are happening is happening right in front of you. And you see the injustice of the system that we put in place. That's why I always said, if we lose our ability to talk to one another, we are doomed, period.
So much. I think we should transition to some Q&A with folks in the room and on Zoom. So if you can hear me, I'm not sure if you can. I don't trust technology all that much, but I'm gonna assume that the people who have been helping and organizing this event are very capable so that they can hear me. So please put your questions in the Q&A for Ms. Kidjo.
I can't help you.
And we'd like to transition. Thank you so much for your questions, and thank you for that amazing conversation. I'm just thrilled to be here and feeling so full and have so many questions of my own that I'm gonna keep in my heart. Okay. All right. So
There's no question, you better stop.
yes. Oh, I got some. So questions from the audience for Ms. Kidjo. And remind me of your name.
Rebecca.
Rebecca will give you the microphone.
Rebecca is in the house with the microphone. Come on, why are you afraid of? The microphone don't bite.
So while you guys warm up, I'm gonna ask a question. So I once read that when you traveled to Brazil, to Bahia, I think specifically, you landed there, and one of the first things you said was, "This smells like home." And I guess I just wanted to hear more about how you think about home these days, because you have lived a life, many lives, and your music, your music absolutely does allow us to travel in so many ways. And I guess I just want to hear more about how you think about home, how travel has shaped how you think about yourself and how you think about your music.
Well, when I landed in Salvador de Bahia, it's the smell of the vegetation, the humidity and the plants. We have the same kind of vegetation. It just smells like home. And then you walk and you go to Pelourinho, and then the food smell like home, and you're like, oh my God, I just want to sit here and eat all the it's just like so for me is home is not only the people that you love and care for, it is the smell you grow up with that stick with you since you were a kid. It's there. Sometimes you don't even know what that smell is, and you smell, you go, oh, you feel home. And it's the smell of comfort and love. And for me, I arrive somewhere and I smell, there's some spices that are around there that is in my brain. I'm like, oh, this feels like home. Or the smell of Brooklyn, the smell of the GFK. When I land in GFK, I know I'm in New York. I know I'm in New York, man. And people start going, and then you and the yellow cab, the taxi driver said, you motherfucker, hit another. Oh, just go easy on me. I can't get home in one piece. And then you get there, you know, oh, you're back home in New York with all the hassles and the love. So for me, home is where you feel safe and you feel that there are endless possibilities, that you can pick a fight with somebody with no fear. But you just not muscle through it and say, sorry, well, we done fighting, let's talk now. And it's just something that is really personal to each one of us, how we see home. And as a person that have fled my country, it took me years to really feel at ease in France because I knew where I come from. I did not know where I was going. But that sense of knowing where you come from, it's really the only thing that saves you from losing your mind and your soul. Because you always tap into that love, that culture where you come from. So it allowed me, that background, that home in Benin, had allowed me to be citizen of the world without fear.
Oh, sure. I have followed you from the 80s, love your music, big fan. And I also was a music major, and all the music comes from Africa. I can tell you from studying that. But the interesting question I would like to know is how you got discovered initially. How did you get your first recording contract?
That's a good one. Well, when I arrived in France, first of all, I did an album when I was in high school. And the producer was a big star from Cameroon. And he heard me sing and said, you should do an album. And then he came and speak to my father. My father said, well, you want to do this album, you have to take your student loan that is owned by the government. You're going to take it to do that. So I took my student loan to do the album. And the guy walked away with my money. That's my first experience. I'm like, okay, I got to pay like that. But I did have the album. And that album was the one that really launched my career outside of Benin. And I could travel around and escape the pressure of the communist regime for 3 years. So, hey. I mean, I owe the money to the bank. The bank bankrupt and I didn't pay. So, I mean, you see, there's always a blessing in something. And then when I arrived in France, we did an album together with my husband. And that album was Paraku. And I didn't have the means to pay everybody. So I called my friends, musician. I said, you playing on my album and I ain't paying you. Is it okay with you? They say, yes, we come. We love your music anyway. So we did that album, and actually the manager and the producer of Salif Keita sent the album to Chris Blackwell, the founder of Island Record. And when we did the album, the Paraku album, we sent it to all the record company executive in Paris. They're, oh, it's too jazz. We don't like this. Blah, 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 blah. So here I am playing a club called New Morning. And you play 2 sets. So as I finished the first set, Madame Fari, the owner of the club, come to me and say, Angélique, before you get to the dressing room, there are 2 important people that want to speak to you. Say, Madame Fari, who are those? Tell me. Say, they are record company executive. I said, what do they want? Madame Fari said, don't be playing your knucklehead here. Go in there. Said, all right, okay. So I went in there, and here was the head of Island France and the A&R from Ireland in England, and they were all absolutely going berserk. We have to sign you. And I'm like, this is cheesy. These same people that told me that my music was too jazzy, now they want to sign me. I need cost. I gotta go down to this business. So I find out that CD that the manager of Salif Keita sent to Chris was the trigger, because the facts read like this: you sign this girl or you have no more job. That's why they're like, I'm like, okay. And when I met Chris Blackwell, he said he had been following my career since I was in Benin. I'm like, these guys, we don't have people like that anymore in the music business. I was lucky for the first 10 years of my career to have him as my A&R. And every time I would prepare my demos, my songs, he would listen to all of them. And then you sit down and I tell you, on the 16th bar of this song, the hi-hat is too hot, it's too loud. I'm like, I gotta start counting the bars now. And one thing that was really particular about me signing with Island was he came all the way from Jamaica for the signature, because they told him that I was resisting to sign, because there's nowhere in that contract that is written that I can do what kind of music I want. My artistic freedom was not there. And then he asked me, what is the problem? I said, I have to be able to do the music I love to do, I want to do. And then he said, it's not even questionable, put it in. And then I signed. So that's how I did my first album, Lugozo, with Chris Blackwell. And he gave me a lot of good tips, because he said to me, because I said, can I sign my publishing with you? And then he said, I would love that. But let me give you an advice. Never put all your eggs in the same basket. Find somebody else to do this. So I did. And he also said to me, when you do an album, it's not only the music that is in the album. From the album cover till your appearance on stage, there has to be a continuity. And he said to me, look at Coca-Cola brand. Around the world, when you see a Coca-Cola bottle, you know what it is. You don't have questions to ask. So you gotta figure out what artist you wanna be and who you wanna be. And then when people see, they know it's you. That's how I started.
Thank you. We have another question here.
Professor Paschel mentioned, is it Batonga? You said Matonga? Patonga? I'd love to hear more about that.
Wish. Okay. The Bastonga Foundation started, I became a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador in 2002. And then my first question when I meet the head of UNICEF and all the team is like, what does it mean? And they say, what do you mean? I said, if you're gonna ask me to be shaking politicians' hands, you're gonna feel sorry for the result. I'm not good at small talk, especially with politicians. And they say, no, it's not that. But you can choose children's education, women empowerment. I say, all those I take. Let's go for it. So I start traveling with the head of UNICEF at that time, that was Carol Bellamy. And we went to Tanzania. And there, it was a fast learning. She knew all the program by heart. Huh? I was following like a little kid. She walked like she on motor. And I'm like, yeah. She said, you want to see, right? Come on, you see stuff. And I fell in love with UNICEF because of the approach of the problem they face on the ground. And the first program she showed me was a village, a specific village not far from Dar es Salaam, where all the women have goiter. And they were like, we got to do this. And she said, let's find out what is creating that first. And it happens that the salt that they consume have no iodine in it. So she came back to New York and asked a pharmaceutical firm to produce them something to test the salt to find it. Then when they go to the market, if the color doesn't turn purple, for them not to buy it. So suddenly you are in a village where the generation that follow that have no more goiter without any surgery done. And they have transformed completely the trade of salt because if your soul have no idea, nobody's buying it. And I'm like, I'm liking this. And so on and so forth. Always the people at the center of it. Year passed, and I came back exactly 3 years after that. Other problems, there's a lot of stuff I went through. And I was talking to mothers because I like to do that. I like to sit and talk to the mothers too. It's not only about the kids. The mother have on another reality that they are living with. And as we're having a conversation about how the young girl are doing primary education, because it was the year where we signed the Millennium Development Goal, where primary education becomes universal for every child. And I campaigned for all the girls to school in many different languages, PSA in English, in different languages. And the mother come to me and say, Miss Angélique, we love you. I said, I love you too. And then she was telling me that if the only choice they have and the only opportunity they have is to send the girls to primary education, not secondary education, we're never gonna put an end to child marriage and child pregnancy. That as long as the primary education finished in their home, doing nothing, the father used that as an argument to marry them off. And my head started burning. And I'm like, oh, what can I do? So I came back, I was frantically in panic, total panic. And I met a friend of mine at the UN, and I said, I gotta do something, man. I gotta come up with a plan to do secondary education. And all the people I know, they say, Angélique, don't go there. You're gonna fail because the rate of dropout is so great. It's a waste of time, a waste of money. I say, if it's easy, why bother? Tell me how I'm gonna do this. So a friend of mine introduced me to two lawyers out of Washington, DC. They're the one that revival the whistleblower trial. And every trial they will win, they created something they call Opportunity Fund that was for education here and in Africa. Then I met those two people in New York, and they said to me, we hear about you, what do you want? I say, I want to put girls to secondary education. And I want to reach out to the dirt road, the poorest of the poorest, the village where there's no electricity and no chance at all for them to go to school. But that doesn't mean they're stupid. I want to give them the opportunity to go to school. And I don't want the parents to pay anything from their pockets. And I say, I want tutoring, mentoring, 1 meal a day, uniform, books, all of it. They don't have to pay anything. So we started in 6 countries, Benin, Mali, Cameroon, Ethiopia, and Sierra Leone. And what I wanted was to work with local NGOs. I did not want the money that is given to me to go to a huge staff. I say, my girls, I want to work with the organizations that are there that can identify those girls, that are already working with them, that I can emphasize the work they are doing. And who called me first? USAID. They say, we have a cohort of girls in a couple of countries that they're gonna finish primary education. We don't know how they're gonna. I say, I'm in. World education. We start working and building the program and working to make sure that those girls have everything they need, and that the mentors are not there to brainwash them through some tradition or some religion. I want my kids to be left alone for them to go to school and have a future. And then you start learning that it's not probably school that is good for everybody, because most of those girls, their primary school was so bad, when they get to secondary school, it's hell on earth because they can catch up. Some of them drop out because they were ashamed not to be able to perform right in school. And I didn't know all of that, but I was still going on. And as I was going on, for example, in Sierra Leone, we have 2 programs. The second program, I shut it down because they were abused. I'm like, I don't want this. Let's just get that out of the way. And in Ethiopia, I have a program in Addis Ababa, in the southern part of Ethiopia. Also with other organizations. I work all the time with women organizations that are working with young girls. In the southern part of Ethiopia, we realized in Abamich that I was working with Mercy Corps there, that if in order to give the scholarship, we give that scholarship to the mother for her to start a business and train her for a business, the girls succeed because you close the gap between the mother and the child. Because when child going to school and they're getting educated, they tend not to want to hear the mother start speaking to them. I don't want that. I don't want mother and girls not to be able to talk anymore. I want to have that still there, and how that can also impact the young boys. So we give the scholarship to the mothers. And we realize that because we reinstall them in their role of mother, those girls perform better in school. Because the mom is like, you gotta do your homework. You're sure I'm gonna cut it short for you to be able to do your homework. And then once all those cohort of girls finish, now my focus from 2016 is to find out the reason of the dropout. Where are the girls? How much education they have had? What skill they have acquired? How do we can salvage and save those girls out of child marriage? And then I turn my attention to population council that come up with technology called Girl Roster that was designed for Guatemala. So I started using that to map the communities that I wanted to be. And then I said, instead of being in 5 countries, let me focus on 2 villages, large villages in my country. And with that technology, you can map a community of 5,000 people. And the questions are very clear. Why did you drop out? Are you living alone? Are you orphaned? Are you about to be married? Do you have a kids? I mean, all of the things, the reason. And what do you want? How can we help? And the response was they want safe spaces, those girls. So we provide the safe spaces. And we sat down by group age, who wants to go back to school, who want to do a business. And they start together doing business of soap that helped them during this pandemic for the community to be safe, actually. And they, they decided, they say, they manufacture the mask, they provide the soap and the water, and they say it's not enough. How do we reach out to the one that we can go see for our village, in the villages? So they raid the radios, the local radios, and wrote songs to talk about this pandemic and probably save a lot of people. So that's what I do as an organization. I only reply on the need of the girl. They come up with what they need. We work together how we make that possible to make it not just a fashion, but sustainable in the long run. So we brought also solar panel, we bought fridge and freeze. I mean, everything for their life to be there, for them to be able to learn and to do their business freely. That's what I do.
Thank you. We have 2 questions from the audience. I've been told by the organizers that we can go a little over.
Okay, let's do this.
I think I'm just going to group them and then you can respond accordingly. Okay. So, and one of them has to do with the album that you're going to be singing tomorrow, performing tomorrow.
Remaining Light?
Which we
and
hopefully
Celia, I'm
will
doing
all be
both. I'm doing
there.
Remaining Light and Celia.
Yes. Oh, that's good. So the first one.
Are you getting excited now?
So the first question comes from Nick, and they ask, when it comes to African artists and African-American artists, it has to do with that. It seems like Africans know so much about African-American music, but African-Americans don't necessarily know and embrace widely African music. What missed opportunities do you see amongst collaborations between African-American and African artists? So that's the first one. And then the second one is about Remain in the Light. So it goes back to this discussion around sacred and secular music. They ask, this is William Burton, asks, I just wanted to say that the Remain in Light covers seem to really imbue the record with spiritual power. I would love to hear you talk more about the project. And they say which was their first introduction to your music and which remains in their regular rotation.
Perfect. I think that the fact that we don't know much about one another is why we don't do much more stuff. I mean, African-American music is everywhere in the world. You can find it easily, but the industry of music in Africa that brings things back here is not that well organized. So, and also we don't have the same approach because music is everywhere in Africa. It's a daily thing. It's not show. It's not just going on stage. We just play because we want to play, we play. And also the fact that we've been cut from one another in purpose, or the people that enslaved and colonized us. Because if we are together, we are power to reckon with, and they don't want to deal with that power. So I think that we owe ourselves to do the effort to understand where what we call African American music comes from. We need to learn each other's story. I knew nothing about the civil rights movement until I came to America, because it's not taught in my country and nowhere, because Africans are ignorant about that story. So I think there are a lot of work that we need to do to bridge the gap for us to be able to work together without having the feeling that because I'm African American, I'm superior. Now, there's no superiority in the pain that we share together. So let's move on that. And the Remaining Light album, when I started listening to it, from the first song to the end, I was with my management and a friend of mine, and they were looking at me like I was crazy. They're like, you cannot do this. The songs are absurd. They have no meaning. I say, you don't grow up with elderly people throwing at you proverbs all the time. You have to scratch your head around and you understand it. It might not mean nothing to you. It means a lot to me. So leave me out. Just let me do my thing. And it is true. From the moment I heard Burn on the Punches, it became evidence that it's talking about corruption. So I just finished my album, Eve, and I've traveled and because Eve was about to put a face on the voice of the women of Africa that we dehumanize. It's always poverty, it's always rape and this and that. I say, I'm tired of talking on their behalf. You gotta hear the voice. So that's where Eve come from. And the song more than that for me. And as I was listening to the Remaining Light, I realized that there are certain songs that speak volume to each song from the Talking Head album. Like Born on the Punches, I start singing Zoia, oh, Zoia, Zoia, nida zoton, Zoia. Corruption is like the fire. You start a fire, but you don't know, you don't have the tool to stop the fire. And it end up by eating everything, including the person that started the fire. That's what corruption has done to every society. The money of corruption that could have been invested in this country, in healthcare, education, infrastructure, the well-being of the American people is beyond what you can think about. And it's the same in Africa, and it's the same everywhere. I mean, corruption is the disease that is killing people on a daily basis. So that's how I start putting the songs together. Cross-eyed Painless. How do you see people with your eyes crossed because you don't want to see the humanity? And then you better dehumanize them to justify your being. And by doing that, you never come to accept your own humanity, and you are lost. Because if you hate somebody, you hate yourself. And so on and so forth. So as all along the way, it was those songs, those proverbs, that was my response to the Talking Heads album. And I make sure that I bring it back to where it all started, Africa.
Thank you so much, Angélique Kidjo, everyone. And thank you so much to Ivy and to Victoria for your amazing questions as well.
Thanks for the warm welcoming. Thank Eva.
Thank you.
Thank you all.